go back many, many years. Both our families come from very affluent, old Persian families. My parents and my whole family, my grandfather, they were all diplomats. My grandfather was prime minister 4 times of Iran. And my father was also ambassador to Washington, Mexico, Germany, Austria. My husband's family, also his father was Minister of War and the highest ranking general in Iran. Both our parents collected a lot. My parents collected a lot of old masters and antiques, and I grew up with all those, not only at home, but also when I lived in embassies, and this is how my eyes got used to this. We had, I have to say, everything. I was born really with a golden spoon in my mouth. Suddenly the revolution happened. It just came about so quickly. It was a bit of a turmoil in Iran, and the Shah was leaving Iran to go to the States to visit President Carter, and he was going to go for 2 weeks and come back. So my father, who was his chief of staff at the time, told us, why don't you all leave, and when we all come back, you all come back as well. So we just took 2 suitcases. I had a 7-month-old baby. I was pregnant with my second son, and we left. And then I remember we sat one day in front of the television in the south of France, waiting to see what's happening, what the future holds. And we saw our prime minister being executed. We saw all the ministers being executed. And I remember my husband turned around to me and he said, that's it, we're not going to go back to Iran. And you know, I always had this hope that, of course, we're going to go back to Iran. The Shah is going to go back to Iran. This is all going to change. At that time, my husband said, I'm going to Oregon. And I said, where is Oregon? I was pregnant, so I couldn't move. I stayed in the south of France to give birth. I joined him finally a year later. And I remember there were 4 mattresses on the floor and nothing else. And I just burst into tears. And he said, it's okay, you can start crying as much as you want. This is our future. And we just have to go from here. And you have to forget your past. He had to start a new job. He went looking for everything, and he went into real estate, he went into everything possible. But not much was happening. But I remember the very first thing that he asked me, finally, when he had accumulated a little bit of money, to buy some furniture for the house, because we had literally nothing. And I remember I went out the whole day, and when I finally came back, and he said, okay, what did you buy? I said, you won't believe it. I bought 2 Louis XVI signed and stamped chairs. So that was my first buy. And again, going back to my family of buying antiques, this was the first thing I bought. And then, of course, we went to Germany and Austria and London, and we started buying little by little antiques and porcelain and paintings. And when we came to London, we went to auction houses, to Dorotheum a lot, and wherever we could. It's very funny. I tried to buy things that my parents bought, because I remember I was surrounded by a lot of gold, so Louis XV, Louis XVI, you know, all these gold frames. So I just, funnily, even though we were very young, we bought this old art. And it was also taking me back emotionally, reliving the homes I lived in. One day, my husband's cousin came to our house, and he said, I think you should concentrate on buying some contemporary art, because this is really your parents' time. So he told me to go and sort of educate myself. And I did. I went to the Royal Academy, I went to Christie's, I did the Master's course at Sotheby's, and another world opened. During the time I was studying, I had to look at galleries, and I got my husband involved in that. And we started really looking at contemporary art together. And that's how we started, in a way, having the same taste, because we learned together. We started this journey together. And I remember when we started collecting, I had a very dear friend, Judith Greer. Then I went to her and I said, I want to connect the art world. How can I get collectors and artists to meet each other? And she said, just throw a party. So we went to the east of London to all these galleries, and we started meeting artists, and I started inviting them. And I realized that it was not done in London. Nobody opened their house, nobody invited people. And for me, it was like an opening, because in Iran, we always had open house. And it just stayed with me, and entertaining was part of my DNA. What also was very interesting in this journey was meeting the artists. Antique artists and all that, they're amazing, it's beautiful. You can look into the archives, you look at the history of them, it's beautiful. But with the contemporary, you have to get to know them, and you have to know why they're doing what they're doing. And so it was amazing getting to know so many artists. 28 South Street was sort of the merging of everything. It was a place where people came knowing they're going to meet people, knowing they're going to have a great time. I have to say that 90% of the people that came to our house was for the Persian food. I remember growing up having Persian food at home, my grandmother's house, my parents' house, even at the embassies, wherever we went, we always had Persian chefs, because my father was representing the country. And it just stayed with me. And I remember we did the very first freeze dinner at our home, and we ended up having, I don't know, about 200 people. We were invited to 11 weddings of people who met in our house. So many artists met their collectors, collectors met their artists, so many artists met their galleries. So it was really an amazing time, an amazing place to do it. We have commissioned Anthony Gormley to do an incredible sculpture in our house. He had broken his leg that day, but he came with his crutches in a cast to create this incredible sculpture. And we are recreating the whole thing again in the south of France, that I hope someday all the people who were here will also join us there. We've had 8 artists already in residence, and we're introducing them again to our friends, and hope this journey continues. Times change, life changes. We lived in London, I think, 35 years, and it was time to move on. And it was very emotional, very, very emotional, and sort of saying goodbye, not only to the house, to every piece we bought. And for a long time, I fought with my husband to keep the 28 dining room chairs. This was for me a really difficult thing, to let go of these chairs. And many more. I mean, the paintings, there were so many bronzes. The house we have right now is very contemporary. I mean, very contemporary. So unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to this part of our life. It's very difficult, when we were choosing what to sell, because every one of them has a story behind them. Especially we were buying them at a time where we put all of our money into one piece and really researched it, looked at it, lived with it for a while, going back and forth. And so every piece was special for us in that house. A few things to mention, maybe we have a lot of amazing portraiture, and one of them is Nicholas Maes, which also when we had it hanging in the house, and later on when we acquired an Anthony Gormley, the juxtaposition, the two of them, these strong men, both in armor, standing next to each other from different centuries, just looked magical. Another piece that I think of right now is the Napoleon table. We had just gone for the day for the art fair in Belgium, and we noticed next to our hotel there was an antique shop, and there was this Napoleon table. It's an amazing porcelain Napoleon with all his generals around it. So this is one of the pieces that I'm really letting go with a lot of difficulty. Olafur Eliasson, or Eliasson, there are different ways of calling him. The first time I went to the Tate and I saw the exceptional hall that he had done when you walk in, just took my breath away. And as a matter of fact, that afternoon we went to Germany, and I saw this Olafur Eliasson hanging in the gallery. Remembering the Tate exhibition, we just decided to purchase it because it's all about light, and we hung it right next to a window where the light was shining through, and it was beautiful. Julian Schnabel, another great artist, another wonderful painting that, again, I'm really sorry to let go. Another two pieces which I really am sorry to let go, but they're just humongous and huge and beautiful, are the bronzes by Antoine Coissegot. These have been in our house right next to the fireplace, and we love them so much that we created a box to go around them so that we can light them from within. So they're sitting on the original marble, but we created a foam marble box on top of them, and they're extremely beautiful, and whoever buys them is very lucky. Letting go is very difficult. The only thing is, it's important to know that they're going to be seen, that they're going to hang on somebody's wall, and they're going to be in somebody's room, and the reason they bought it is because they like it. So for me, that's very emotional.